this garlic that I have is stable at this moment. But as soon as I get ready to crush this garlic, it releases an enzyme. And we need enzymes out here, like our outer environment has oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus, and all these different other enzymes. Now, if garlic was left out, we know, just like onions, inside of an environment, bacteria draws to it. It draws to it. It's like a magnet for bacteria. So does garlic also. That's why it's called an antibiotic. That's the reason why we should be consuming it, to get rid of the bacteria that's inside of our body. Now, as I further try to explain this enzyme that is creating, called alanase, and turns it into another component called allicin. Now, I know this looks crazy. Nobody understands what I'm talking about here. But this is an analogy right now that you have to pay attention to realize that if I represent this whole structure right here, this whole structure as a train. I represent this as a train. At the back of a train, there's a caboose. We're going to represent that as a hydrogen. At the front of the train, there's an engine. We're going to represent that as a hydrogen. Okay? The outer elements of that train has oxygen. So we're going to represent that as oxygen right here. Hydrogen and oxygen makes a hydroxide, or basically a hydroxyl bond. So actually, when you have these carbons, these are all still carbons right here. Within the train, we're going to make that be the beds of the train, to make the width of the train. And inside of it, we got these different areas of carbon and hydrogen and all those different things. But we mainly focus on the sulfur. We're trying to contain the sulfur inside of these bonds so that they can couple off with the oxygen. So we're trying to keep it protected. This is a stable unit, and as it's riding down the train tracks, we find a bump in the train, bump in the tracks. That bump in the tracks is that enzyme reaction called alanase. And it changes that train format and breaks off some of those electrons, some of those atoms, starts to break off. We need to be able to protonate to different areas. Give it, like in chemistry, we talk about electrons on an electron cloud, giving and donating different electrons. So after this bump in the train tracks, it knocks off this carboxyl group, which is carbon. When you say carboxyl, carbon to an oxygen, knocks off this carboxyl group here and loses the hydroxyl ions. This process is what we call glycolysis. Glycolysis is basically glucose being just changed. It's changing glucose molecules and changing them into a pyruvate. Pyruvate gets synthesized into the body by different enzymes also. Now, this subject up here is the pyruvate. We need two molecules of that in order to get through glycolysis. Now, they call this an amidogen. Basically, one of the ammonia families, we know that nitrogen and hydrogen 3 is ammonia. We get to knock that down through glycolysis. And we can turn this into allicin. All this is happening when you crush this piece of garlic. It gets very, very technical with all of the terminologies and all these different things, but it is good that we know in-depth science when it comes to this matter, that we can get healing from these properties of allicin. Allicin right now is unstable. It's an unstable ingredient that the alanase has created, and now it only lasts about 60 seconds. This gets into the bloodstream. And opens up artery walls, starts to give the cholesterol its sulfite that it needs, and starts to break down the calcium carbonates inside of blood vessels. That's how you can cure up high blood pressure with garlic. That's why they use it for that. That's why we can take the allicin and bond it. See, sulfur is so abundant inside of the body. It's the third most abundant mineral inside the body. When it gets in there, it can go to the brain. and get all the aluminum deposits when it coupled off with oxygen so that it can get rid of it and deposit it out of the body. So allicin is then created, but that's not where it stops with garlic. Garlic keeps going. Garlic is ongoing. I love garlic so much that it gets to another part of this train. After allicin is depleted, because it only lasts about 60 seconds, it still goes on into another form called algin. Algin comes from the ene, but this is an ene reaction, another ene reaction right here. Algo is Spanish for garlic, and that's where they come up with this name at. And it actually blocks the communications of different bacteria signaling off. And that process is called quorum sensing. When bacteria is able to sense off other bacteria, like, say for instance, tumors start to build up in the body, fibroids start to build up in the body, cells start to clump together. They all clump together. But what the algin does, it blocks that communication, and it gets rid of all of that destructive cells, and it creates what they call apoptosis. Apoptosis is plant cell death, or basically natural cell death. You get rid of all the cancer cells like that. You get rid of viral cells like that. You get rid of tumor cells that way. That's why garlic is very, very important. Now, it's not just me saying this. There's over 200,000 studies and research papers that have been done on garlic alone. And just for sulfur alone, there's plenty more research studies on that. Now, this is the age of information. All these things can be found out, and you don't have to keep going basing off what some other doctor has said that has died. Because they get this information, and we are steady evolving. We got new things coming out, new things, and the reason why these things get shut off, because people in power, or people that are looked upon as like gods and things like that, they start to say things, and people take heed to those things and not doing further research to see if they are actually correct. This gets deeper inside of the sciences that these people have paid researchers to try to find. Just like Dr. Bob Beck, he found out something called sulfone hydroxyl ions. Well, I just told you about the hydroxyl group right here. This is a hydroxyl group right here. And we got rid of the hydroxyl group through glycolysis. What is a sulfone? A sulfone here basically is a double bonded oxygen, two double bonded oxygens to a sulfur. And what we're using is a sulfoxide. Which is a sulfur double bonded to an oxygen. There he goes, he's wrong right there. I'm not trying to put that person on blast, but we can't keep suffering through the effects of dead people. We need sulfur. It is our beautifying mineral. It is what builds up all of our skeletal muscles, our ligaments, our tendons, our collagen, our fibrins, elastins. This is what makes our skin beautiful. So if you don't take high sulfur containing foods, when you have to cut a piece of broccoli, it makes sulforaphane. When you have to eat different green leafy vegetables, kale and all those different things, you need to cut it and let it sit for a little while, then eat it. But the reason why, because it lets out this other enzyme called myronase. Myronase allows those